We will go to 7.2. You ready? A, consideration of a resolution authorizing application for grant funding under the Regional Climate Collaboratives Program as administered by the Strategic Growth Council. And B, consideration of a draft partnership agreement for the Climate Safe Lake Project and authorization of a designee to sign. And with us, we have our Climate Resiliency Officer, Terry Luxon.
Good afternoon or good morning. Thank you. I'm coming before you with another approval for a big grant. Right now it's looking like 1.3 or 4 million. It's exciting to consider this to build the capacity. You heard this morning from the RCD, from Dr. Harry Lyons, about their capacity building efforts, and this would continue that. And along with the RCD, it would build capacity for the Risk Reduction Authority. The grant part, oh, I have a presentation. Do you want me to do some slides?
Yes, please.
Okay. You need to eject that. This one. Super. And then, do I control it? Okay. Super. Thank you. So it is a grant from the Strategic Growth Council, the Regional Climate Collaboratives. This is round 2. We applied last year and barely missed getting it. And so we're applying again this year.
So can you talk about who's funding the grant, the partnership?
The
Grant writing.
Sure. We have a grant writer that works a lot with North Coast Opportunities, and so Supervisor Paiska's discretionary funds and NCO are paying for the grant writer that I'm working with. Thank you very much. And then the grant partners are the Lake County Community Risk Reduction Authority, Scotts Valley Band of Pomo Indians, Scotts Valley Energy Corporation, the Lake County Resource Conservation District, and North Coast Opportunities, with the County of Lake being the lead. The Regional Climate Collaboratives Program is a capacity building grant, and what's great about capacity building grants is that's something that everyone's always looking for because it pays for staff, it pays for plans, but it doesn't pay for equipment, which is great because right now we need staff. It enables communities. Well, you can read that, but what we're proposing is to build the capacity of the RRA to plan and implement climate change-related projects, create a waste woody biomass utilization and bioenergy biochar development plan, track progress and evaluate grant comes, which is required, as well as peer learning, which is required. And so for the last several years, the Risk Reduction Authority has been looking at how to be a part of the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. They have a biomass utilization pilot project. And so objective 1 of this grant program, which again comes from the Strategic Growth Council, which is also part of the Governor's Office, is to create actionable plans and projects. A long-term goal, as I was mentioning, of the RRAs to position themselves and the county as a whole to be accepted into the biomass utilization pilot projects of the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, or OPR. 2 of OPR's goals are to manage forests to achieve the state's economic and environmental goals and to create a sustainable woods product market in California. And part of that, which I only know just a little bit about with talking with OPR staff, is what comes with it is what's called a BDO zone designation, which is Bioenergy Development Opportunity Zones. And it's part of the state's economic goals, includes creating these zones, and to receive this designation, 1, we would be accepted into the pilot project, and 2, we need a JPA or a Joint Powers Authority that can oversee biomass utilization and sales of that biomass. And so the slide has a little bit of information about what a BDO zone is, but the most important thing, or the bottom line, the last bullet, is they can help secure our clean energy future. And we know in Lake County with the geysers, the possible train project, and all of our solar, we're moving forward with renewable energies. And so the goal, OPR has developed 5 projects to test new mechanisms for developing long-term feedstock contracts. That's a sticking point. And information, they'll provide information and templates from other pilot projects that will be shared broadly to provide a menu of options for broader adoption. And so those are the 4 highlighted items that the OPR pilot projects want to do, that we want to position the RRA to be able to take advantage of. And that's just a map of the regions. As you see, Lake County over here is not in it, but that is soon going to change. I know it. So again, round 1 that we submitted last year, the RRA approved to form a collaborative and apply for the round 1 grant in October of 2022. The task was to create the same as this year, create a waste woody biomass utilization, bioenergy, biochar deployment plan, and take initial steps to construct the facility. And those task partners, again, last year were Scotts Valley Band of Pomo Indians, RRA members, clerk, the U.S. Forest Service, Terra, and the RCD. And so this year, under round 2, that's changed a little bit because a lot of what we proposed, we being the collaborative, and other agencies have received grants, we've had to change it, and it's continued to change as our situation changes. And so the RRA approved in July to go for the round 2 grant. This year it required a pre-application, and then those would be invited to submit a full application. I submitted the pre-application by the due date on September 6th, and it was accepted, and we were invited to submit a full application, and it's due next Wednesday. The RRA voted to pursue funding at a special meeting on November 6th to support RRA staffing and a mechanism to ensure financial sustainability while addressing the overabundance of waste woody biomass in Lake County, which has been a goal of the RRA for years. And so what the consultants and the OPR has done, they created an acronym. We all love acronyms. The California Forest Residual Aggregation for Market Enhancement, or CalFrame. And so there are, the question that it asks is, could a JPA improve forest biomass feedstock supply chains by providing a feedstock supply agreement that includes a publicly managed price mechanism? So when investors are looking at bioenergy projects, they're looking for a way to sell carbon credits and a way to make sure you've got a contract for 10 years to get the biomass out of the forest or out of this neighborhood or out of the creeks and streams. They're looking for the contracts, and that's a missing piece. And so I'm not going to go over in depth the different types of the JPA models, but what we're proposing in the grant is because these are very different structures. There's public infrastructure, a services JPA, or a wildfire prevention JPA. And I believe our RRA now is kind of formed under the wildfire prevention JPA. And myself, along with Kevin Ingram, city manager of Lakeport, and Franklin Velarde from Middletown Rancheria are on the bylaws subcommittee. So we're looking at changing that, but we realized we're not lawyers. We need to have assistance. So we're putting funding in the grant for a consultant who can work with the RRA to figure out which of the types of JPA models would work best for the RRA and for the county as a whole. And so the other objectives in the grant are to build social infrastructure, center community engagement and decision-making, and develop equity-centered processes. So those are the four, that along with the others, the four objectives. And so with North Coast Opportunities, as you are aware, is the community action agency for Lake and Mendocino County. NCO is going to plan and implement neighbor fests throughout the county that will educate and inform all communities in Lake County about emergency preparedness and more, including giving RRA members like the County of Lake a venue to engage in community community members throughout the county in like, for instance, the general plan update or the climate adaptation plan, the evacuation route planning, the surveys that I have to go back out, the work that NCO is doing, Red Cross is doing, and many other agencies to have the funding to plan these family-friendly events, because I did several of them over the summer, and they're wonderful. You get a couple hundred people, there's food, there's activities for children, there's games, and there's real education and community engagement. And so which is a major goal of the Strategic Growth Council, is to be able to engage the communities where they are. And that's the beauty of the Neighbor Fest. Like, we did one in Spring Valley, we did one in the Rivieras, and so they're very hyper-local. And so throughout the let's see, where did I miss off? So before your board next week, I'm going to go over the adaptation planning grant that we were awarded. But we're using one of the deliverables in that grant as an in-kind in this one, which is that the RRA directors and participants will receive diversity, equity, and inclusion training. There'll be a kickoff event and then annually. And so we're going to use that as in-kind in our grant application. And so in summary, the peer learning objective in our grant application, while it's required, is also something that my position, as well as the Lake County Fire Safe Council and other RRA participants, are tasked to do, which is getting out the word of preparedness, defensible space, all of the things that we have been talking about, but to do it more and to do it consistently. And this will allow all of the agencies that are doing that work to have a platform to do it. But we will also create a waste woody biomass utilization and bioenergy biochar deployment plan that includes hiring a full-time executive director and a biomass program manager for the Risk Reduction Authority, which has been the missing piece, right? Since, Carol, your board allowed Carolyn Purdy and myself to assist the RRA after NCO's contract ended. So she and I did that January, February, and March. And since then, the RCD received funding, and you may have met Elisa, who works with Jade Conservation Collective, and she's been providing administrative support to the RRA since then, about 8 to 10 hours a month, but it takes much, much more than that. So to have paid staff, additional staff will be great. And then contract with a consultant to lead the RRA through the process to determine what JPA formation changes are needed, and to assist the bylaws update subcommittee of the RRA to make changes, track progress, and evaluate grant outcomes, which is required, and peer learning, which is required. And so that's just an overview of what we're going to apply for to try to help Lake County. And then also in your packet is a draft. Well, there's the resolution, and then there's a draft partnership agreement template. And the reason it's not more fleshed out is, as I mentioned, it just kind of keeps changing because we've had some really big news.
So Terry and I have been working for the past couple of years, Terry 1 year longer, to get into this pilot program that she has outlined. And it's already in year 2 of and do you want to put the map up? Okay.
That one?
That one. So we have been selected, we got the news last Wednesday that we are the newest pilot project for the state of California with the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. Yes. We're so excited. We've been working really, really hard to land this and showing the need. We've done a dead tree tour. We've done just about everything possible, and all of that effort has paid off. And starting in January, we will probably start to see the first of that funding. So it's absolutely critical that we maintain this path with building out this capacity. We will be receiving support from the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, but it won't be enough. We have a lot of catching up to do. The things that they found most enticing that allow us to enter into this later is we already have the JPA in place. We just have to modify some things in the bylaws. And we have a never-ending supply of feedstock, both from our past fires, our forest health projects that the RCD mentioned earlier, and continued fuels breaks and defensible space and all of the things. So the disposal piece has been missing for a long, long time, and this is an opportunity for us not just to complete that piece and find a solution, but to invite industry and really figure out how we can turn this into an opportunity for Lake County. So I'm really excited, but it's going to be a lot of work. So this was an important grant opportunity that we barely missed last year. It's even more important now. So hopefully, the Strategic Growth Council and OPR work really closely together. So that's why we've layered in so many of the things that we've talked about at this presentation and earlier. The conversation continues. We always are strategic in our projects. And last year's focus was on the CAP, which we got in funding through the other grant, the APGP grant, that we'll learn more about later in December. So I just really excited to bring this all to you. And if you have any questions, let us know. And then deadline is next week. Supervisor Spatier.
I think Supervisor Green.
Oh, Supervisor Green.
Thank you. Very exciting. Let's get this done. My only question is technical. I see 2 recommended actions. I see in the reso at the bottom of page 1, the reso would appoint the CAO or designee as an agent and signator to execute all documents, including agreements. But on the staff report, there's a recommended action to designate a signator for the agreement coming up. So I guess we could double designate if needed, but my question is if the reso covers that or if that second recommended action is needed.
So yes, it would, on its face, the resolution should cover that. The second requested action to designate a signatory for the partnership agreement may stem from whatever grant funding requirements there may be in place. And if so, if that's the case, that can be accomplished by motion.
Is there a separate requirement that we can't have this master reso do it? We have to make a separate finding?
I don't think so. My intent at least, was to not have to come back before your board for the draft partnership agreement template. So whatever, and we have to submit the resolution with the grant and the draft with the grant, but we don't have to sign or send in, or with the application, a finalized partnership agreement template.
Supervisor Spatier.
Definitely in the right direction, in the sense that I know I've been given the RRA a little bit of a hard time about the leadership and the use of our county staff. Don't want to stop what the RRA is doing, but definitely want to support in getting the grant funding to get that executive director leadership, because it's absolutely necessary. The work is not just check a box and move paperwork on. It's going to require some heavy lifting to get some of these projects moving, especially in the direction that you're looking at to become a broker in the biomass market. So love where this is going, support it. What I wanted to add, and I spoke with Terry earlier today, we talk a lot in there about fire-wise communities. There's a lot of stuff about fuel reductions. There's a lot of stuff that it doesn't specify wildfires within the document, but it's kind of leading towards the idea of such. And I just want to make sure we don't forget flooding, where biomass creates similar issues and impacts. Last year was massive flooding issues for the state of California. We anticipate more of that this year. And I just think if we can add that in there, it would be a potential benefit in reviewing the application and seeing that this provides for both reduction of risk for fire hazard and reduction of risk for flood hazard.
And I think that's a really good point, and thank you for reminding me of it. We recently had a conversation with California Fish and Wildlife about having the Cs, or the Conservation Corps, doing stream bed clearing, and one of the issues that they ran into was what to do with the vegetation they were pulling out. And so, finding a long-term mechanism for just that issue, because we need to do more stream clearing to protect hitch habitat and to prevent flooding, particularly in Scotts Valley, along Scotts Valley Road. And then we've got the Middle Creek Restoration Area coming up. Yes, so when it comes to flooding issues, agricultural prunings, crop conversions, there's a lot of biomass that we need to mitigate, and it can, bring income to the county instead of pile burning it.
And in my comments, I don't doubt that we would have taken whatever biomass is available to move into the direction of turning into biochar or whatever it is that we'll turn into. It's more of what's the rubric for the grant, and if we add that language in the application, does it help us to potentially reach the number we're looking for in order to not miss it this year?
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Crandall?
Just to add to the vegetation, because we can't necessarily do any work underground or pull roots, it does help to just take that vegetation out because it grows back quickly, just constant. And so since we're sitting here waiting on permits and then they get lapsed and then they move forward because of another, a permit not lining with another, this could be a way to, I know it's a little more work here and there, but it provides more biochar if we can get that from the streams. Yeah, so I appreciate you mentioning that about the floods.
Yeah, obviously glad to have this conversation here today. I know we pulled together the special meeting pretty quickly with the RRA board because, the conversation needed to happen with the whole board, and it was well attended that day to help us move forward with this opportunity. So I think we're moving in the right direction. I think Supervisor Sabate, you touched on the main thing. We've talked about it for years. That executive director position is the missing key. You heard that from RCD today when they were able to get that accomplished. What leaps and bounds have changed, and we're right on that cusp. So appreciate the support today. I want to thank Supervisor Pyska, Chair Pyska, and Terry for really pushing this down the path to get completed. The OPR news is big. Support today from the board is going to take that step, I think, that is really going to move the RRA forward in the right direction we've all been wanting it to go. So the collaboration efforts that are happening throughout the county are unbelievable. Looking for support today.
Yes, and I just want to thank everybody that's been participating in these grant meetings for the last 2 years. It's been a big push. But having a climate officer now who has this in their job description really enables the county to participate in ways that we haven't been before. So it's almost been a year since you've been here, and there's just been incredible strides made.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll open it up for the public. If you have any public comment. Not seeing any in Zoom, so I'll bring it back to the board for action. Do it.
I offer the resolution.
I was getting to that. That's all right. Good.
All right. Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier,
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall,
Yes.
Supervisor Green,
Aye.
and Supervisor Pyska.
Yes. Yeah, do the
Part two.
Yeah.
Sorry. Falling behind today.
Designate a signatory for the partnership agreement.
Yeah, so moved. Who, CAO?
No, I have to say. Yes,
CAO or your designee? Should we put it that way?
okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We're so excited.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Good job,
Terry.
Terry.
Next week.
Thank you, Terry.